Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit unusual, the Snapmaker 2.0. If you don't know what the Snapmaker is, it's an all-in-one 3D printer, laser etcher and CNC machine. It is rather unusual in the 3D printing space in the fact that it combines all three of those products in one. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through what it actually is, showing you some of its features and capabilities, and at the end, sharing with you my thoughts. Now, just to be clear up front, I was aware of the Snapmaker before I was approached. However, they did reach out to me and ask if I'd be interested in taking a look at this product on the channel, and I absolutely said yes. They did, though, send me that product for free. However, I have not been paid to make this video, and my thoughts are, as always, entirely my own. This is not going to be a build guide for this product. It is predominantly going to be talking about the features and capabilities, but we will touch on my thoughts on the assembly as we move through as well. So the first thing we're going to do is explain exactly what the Snapmaker 2.0 is. It's an all-in-one 3D printer, laser engraver cutter and CNC machine. It is very similar to 3D printers that you see out there. However, it is different in the sense of everything is a bit more beefed up. It features a strong CNC frame and heads, and in fact, almost all parts of this system are made from CNC aluminium. It has a portrait-style touchscreen device based on Android, which features a quad-core A7 CPU, and this is how you actually interface with the printer, allowing you to be able to control it, set the prints, the CNC, and control all of the settings. It also has a secondary controller on board based on the Cortex M4 processor as well. It has 5 sealed linear actuators to provide the movement. Unlike a normal 3D printer where you may see the motors in view, in this they are sealed actuators, ensuring that no dust and debris make it into the motors. It has built-in Wi-Fi as well as USB connectivity, allowing you to upload prints either via USB flash drive, control from your PC, or wirelessly via the software that's included over the Wi-Fi network. Another nice feature with the built-in Wi-Fi is that you can update the printer without having to use any external software. The model I've got here is the A350T, and it is the larger of the two models available. It features a 320 by 350 by 330 work area, whether that be printing, cutting or CNC. On the printing side of things, the extruder features a 0.4mm nozzle with a maximum hot end temp of 275 degrees C. It has a flexible removable magnetic heated bed with a maximum temp of 80 C, has auto bed leveling and has a recommended fastest print speed of 60mm a second. It features full filament runout recovery, and it can print PLA, ABS, PETG, TPU, wood, PLA and all of the usual filaments that are available on the market. On the laser engraving, it features a Class 4 1600mm laser module. It has a built-in camera and a spot dimension of 0.2 to 0.3mm with a 450nm wavelength. Whilst the printer comes with a 1600mm module, you can also upgrade this to a new 10W module, which is available to buy directly from Snapmaker. Finally, moving on to the CNC, it supports tool shank diameter of 0.5 to 6.35mm and has a spindle speed of between 6,000 and 12,000 RPM, and it comes with a dedicated bed for cutting. Next, we're going to take a look at what you get in the kit and assembly. Now, there's no question when it arrives, it is quite a large box. Once you've unpacked it all, you'll find all of the components nicely packaged individually, ready for assembly. Before I start, I just want to walk you through a few things on this kit just to show you the kind of quality of this product. Now, this is what they call the power module. This is the external power supply for the device. When you open the box, you'll find it located in here, and it is a full CNC aluminium unit. It really reminds me of some of the Apple style external hard drives from G Drive and others that we've had in the past, but it's a completely metal external housing. You've got these nice rubber feet on the bottom. You can see that it is model number SM2PM, which supports 24 volts 13.4 amp or 320 watts of output. On the front, you've got this grill area here. I'll try and show you some proper footage on that in a minute. And then on the back, we've got our main power input switch and our DC output located there. Now, as this is a multifunction unit, they supply 3 different tool heads. We have our 3D printing tool head, our CNC tool head, and our laser tool head. Now, the laser I've got on this model here is the 1600 milliwatt one, but they do have a larger one available if you want to upgrade to that too in the future. Now, these tool heads bolt onto the main printer, and we'll take a look at that as we go through, but they are, like the power supply, all made from CNC aluminium. Everything is absolutely solid. Really quite heavy actually, but the quality of the build itself is just outstanding. It's the same case for the CNC units. You can see there again, we've got our output shaft down the bottom there, our mounting on the back, and our connector input there. And again, made of metal. And then we have our laser module, which is the lightest of the three modules. Again, input at the top. Got a clear window there, and then on the bottom we've got the laser output and our camera, which is used as part of the functionality too. And finally, just to show you one of the 5 linear rails, I need to open the box on this one. There are, as I've just said, 5 of these, so we've got 2 on each axis as well, then obviously as our main rail for the tool head. Now again, just like everything else, these are all made out of CNC. The motor is part of the main frame, so there's no separate motors that roll on top of this or anything that attaches to this like belts. It's all included in the main unit. So you've got this plate here which moves up and down. You can see that this metal band strip is here. That is what protects the insides from the dust and the materials from the 3D printing, the CNC, as well as the laser. And then we simply have this flat cable on the back that comes out, and that goes into our connection as we move through. Now, as this printer is a kit, they also include this frankly lovely quick start guide with it as well. When you open it, it is a beautifully put together full color guide showing you what is included with the kit. It's obviously got a lot of warnings at the beginning because these things usually do, but you've then got all of the information of what you should have in the box. And then they walk you through the assembly process in a really nice and simple way. It is one of the nicest manuals that I have seen with any product that I've had that I can remember, period. And they have done an outstanding job of putting all of the information you need in here. They walk you through the main assembly of the main unit, and then you have the assembly of the other bits like the 3D printing or the laser engraving and cutting as well. Alongside that manual, they also include this tools and accessory box. In here, you'll find some safety gear. So we have our goggles, the tinted as well as clear ones for our laser and CNC. And you also have this little toolbox as well. Below that, you'll find some of the accessories for mounting stuff onto the build plate, which we'll take a look at later. But what's really nice is the way they've laid everything out in this toolkit. You've got all of the fixings, but they also give you the tools you need to put the printer together as well. And they explain all of that in this manual, showing you what you'll need, where and when, and really just making the assembly process as quick and as easy as possible. Now, this video is not going to be a complete assembly guide. What I'm going to do next is hop off and put it together. I'll take some footage of the assembly, and then I'll come back once we've got it in its 3D printer configuration and share with you my thoughts on the build process having followed the manual. Okay, so I've got it to this stage here. Now, this is the point where you make the decision on what build you want, whether that be 3D printing, CNC or laser. We've got the main frame all together, the bed is mounted, the motors are mounted, and all of the cables and connections are all in place. Now, just a few observations of getting it to this point. Overall, it is very simple. Follow the instructions properly, you're okay. I had a couple of mishaps where I didn't fully read what it said at the top, which is not all of the bolts you tighten as you put them in. What you need to do is put some of them in to hold and then tighten it all up afterwards, and that caught me out a few times as well. There's really, though, nothing here particularly difficult. The only thing I would probably say is you are having a bit of back and forth between a few different boxes as you get in different components. The way things are boxed up isn't in linear order of assembly. You might need a bit for this bit, which is in one box, and that bit in another. But overall, the process to this point is very, very easy. So what I'm going to do now is continue and get it into a 3D printing mode, and then I'll come back and show you the build. Okay, so the build is now complete. We're ready to do the software calibrations and then start a print. Now, with regards to the difficulty and the length of time of the build, I think it's taken me about an hour and a half to get to this point. Nothing particularly shocking. I wasn't rushing. I was taking it easy. If you follow the manual, the instructions are outstanding. You'll have no problems at all. With regards to difficulty point of view, I would say it's not remotely as hard as building, say, a Mark III Prusa, but it isn't quite as easy as, say, putting an Ender 3 together. It sits somewhere in the middle. Most of the difficulty isn't really the assembly, it's just the back and forth on the instructions, making sure you've got all of the wiring in. There's a bit more to this printer than there is, say, on an Ender 3 with regards to cabling, and you've just got to make sure that you're getting everything correct. Overall, though, it's all plug and play, nothing particularly shocking, so let's get on with the calibrations. Just to give you a closer look at some of the prints that I've had from the printer. Now, obviously, this is that octopus you've seen there. You can see overall it's come out very well. No imperfections at all. Not a lot of bobbling around the head. And overall, it's as good a print as I've seen off any of my other printers. Obviously, I've done a benchy as always, and it's come out very nice indeed. Little bit of stringing, but to be honest, I can blame that on the filament. I don't think I can blame it on the printer, and I'm not really seeing any issues. Everything looks pretty good. First layer looks decent, and overall, it's pretty much perfect. And then I printed this large octopus. Yes, my kids have got to it between the time I printed it and showing it to you here on film. However, again, it was a larger test print just to check that it did work as expected. And overall, it's come out absolutely spot on. So after printing, it was time to move on to laser engraving. This involved swapping the bed and changing the head. Now, this printer does not come with an enclosure, but there is one available from Snapmaker as part of the kit. I do actually have it, but I haven't set it up at this point in the video. Now, just to be clear, I am wearing safety glasses as I'm filming this. You do need to take great care when using a laser engraver. These lasers can cause a huge amount of damage to your eyes as well as other parts of your body. They also can damage other equipment as well, including cameras, so you should also be careful when filming. Now, as you're doing laser cutting, regardless of the material, you should always be careful. There is always the potential for something to flame up, and you should never leave one of these unattended. Now, just to show you some of the results of the laser side of things. Now, these are cuts or engraves off that wood that was included with it. It's about 2 mil thick. You can see we've got this little nameplate here, which I made for my son, and my daughter was playing with things as well. We've got her name cut out, as well as the little heart shape there. And I even cut out the base plate for the TBS frame, which is the source one. I cut that from timber as well, just to do a test. I've also been using the engraving on various bits around the workshop. So for instance, I did a test engrave on this handle just to engrave my name into the wood, and I did the same on the back there. And I even engraved onto the aluminium case on this Samsung SSD, and you can see that it's actually engraved into the anodization, so you can see that I've been able to label that up, and it's handy for not only making crafty stuff, but you can even security tag stuff as well to ensure that people know who it belongs to. Next, it was time to test the CNC. Now, this again does involve changing the bed and the head, but there is some additional accessories that are included that you will need for this for holding your workpieces down onto the timber. Now, overall, the process is exactly the same as it was for the laser side of things. You simply remove the existing bed and install the provided wooden base. Snapmaker do include 2 CNC bits with this kit, although I will recommend that you get some spares. I did manage to break one of the provided ones on my first cut. So now it was all set up, it was time to do some testing. Now, I downloaded the TBS Source 1 frame kit files from the internet, and I decided to cut some pieces of plastic to see how they came out. At this point, I haven't tested it with carbon fiber yet. I decided to keep it simple, test it on plastic, and get used to how the CNC performs. Here you can see that bit break I talked about earlier. The supplied one is very, very thin. Luckily though, I already had a pack of spares, so I swapped it over and started the process again. The last thing I want to talk about is the included software. Now, this is called Lubin, and this is a piece of software that allows you to use all of the features of the Snapmaker Pro. It allows you to do 3D printing, laser engraving, and CNC. Depending on which option you select will give you the features and capabilities for that mode. So for instance, in 3D printing, you can see it gives us our workspace, and then you have all of the usual options. So for instance, you can import a model, and then you have all of the usual features and capability you would expect. Everything is laid out quite nicely and simply. So for instance, you have options over here for normal print, fast print, smooth surface, precise and strong, and all sorts of fairly straightforward options down here, allowing you to do things like set the layer height and all of this kind of thing. You then do, though, have the option of going in deeper and being able to configure things a lot more like you can in a traditional slicer, allowing you to do a lot more customization. Again, things are very much the same under the laser engraving section. You first of all have to select whether it's 3 or 4 axis, 3 axis for the model that I've got. You then would set your work area size, and here you're able to drag in things such as an image, and the system then gives you the option of the processing modes. So for instance, we can do it in grayscale or a vector, allowing us to cut around that, halftone, and whatever option you want to choose. I'm not going to go into all of the specifics here, but it does allow you to do all of the things that you would expect in a slicer for the laser engraver. Under the CNC, things are very much the same. You go in, you set your axis type, set your work area, and then you can start dragging in the files you want to use to be able to use on the routing table. One of the nice things about the software is it does allow you to transfer your files into a workspace where you can wirelessly connect to the printer, and then rather than transfer them onto an SD card, you can either run them directly from the software itself or transfer them directly to the printer and then print them on board. Okay, so it's time for me to share with you my thoughts on the Snapmaker 2.0. Now, I'm doing this from the new front end of the workshop, so rather than dragging it up there, you're now seeing where this is going to live. Now, I want to split this bit into 2 sections. I want to talk about the hardware and the device first, and then we will talk about the software. Now, just to be clear again up front, Snapmaker did send me this device for free. However, they have not paid me to make this video. They've not seen it before it's been published. And as always, with all of my content, my thoughts are in entirely my own. Now, from a hardware point of view, I actually really like this. There is a lot of cool functionality and just nice features. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this isn't an expensive device, and I'm not going to pretend it is the best 3D printer, the best laser engraver, or the best CNC machine. The 3D printing side of it is very good. It does exactly what I expect a 3D printer to do. Really large print bed, it's not quiet, and it is not fast, but it does deliver good results. It doesn't have some of the bells and whistles we see on the Bamboo or the newer printers, but what it will give you is a solid output. It tested well in TPU, tested well in PLA, PETG, no complaints whatsoever. About the only thing I did pick up on the printing side of it was I wish the bed had a bit more strength to the magnet. It does feel at times like the bed could slip. Haven't had it happen myself, but it does feel that way, although it is a big, large magnetic bed, so there is plenty of surface area to grip, but it does feel like it just needs a little bit more. So from a 3D printing point of view, I've got no complaints. With regards to the laser engraving, again, not the fastest, but everything I've cut has gone well. It's not the most powerful at 1.6 watts, but you can get that 10 watt upgraded laser. I'm actually going to get that myself because I do think it does a good job. Again, large plate area. It's not as big as some of the other laser engravers that don't have a frame like this does, but it is great for that crafty use. It's not going to cut a piece of 2x4 or anything like that, but overall, if you're someone who's looking to do crafts, cards, thin wood materials, the balsas and things like that, I think you'll be okay. Again, it's very much the same situation with the CNC. It does a decent job. I'm not going to say it is going to be as strong or as solid as a proper CNC machine. But what is nice about it is the way it is all integrated with their software. And whilst you do have to swap the beds over, it isn't a massive job. It doesn't take long, and it is nice and easy to swap between the modes. And it just gives you a lot more possibilities than you would have from, say, a 3D printer on its own. Now, with regards to the rest of the device, the functionality, something I really do like on this is the Android-based touchscreen. I really like this. It's like a phone, and its software is good, it's intuitive, it's quick, it's easy. The Wi-Fi functionality is good as well. I would love all of my 3D printers to be based on this software. Genuinely, I think it is just one of the nicer user experiences that I've had in a 3D printer, let alone CNC and laser engraver. Now, there are a few things, though, I do want to mention on the hardware. As I've said, swapping between modes is a little bit of a faff. It's not terrible, a couple of minutes, but my advice to you would be to get new screws. The ones they provide are quite soft, and I do think you're going to end up chewing them up quite quickly. I would actually get stainless steel screws for the bed rather than have traditional metal. That way you're not going to run into problems with rounding them off. You don't need to tighten things down too tight, but you do need to make sure that it is obviously tight enough that nothing is going to move. Swapping the heads over is fairly straightforward. It's just 4 screws. The only awkward thing about it is often you'll have the printer, or the device I should say, set up like this, and you're having to reach behind to get to the screws. In many ways, I'd have preferred the fixing to be on this side of it, even if it wasn't as nice looking, just from an ease of use point compared to having to reach around the back. What is really nice on this device, though, is the overall fit and finish. As I said when I initially unboxed it, all of the CNC parts are really nicely made. The power supply, it is a little bit noisy on the PSU on its own. It does make some noise. There's a fan in the back, and as I've said, when it's in use, it's not the quietest of device, but there's no major hardware complaints. I can't talk really much to the longevity of these linear motors or these actuators, but this band that runs along it does seem to do a good job of keeping the dust and the debris out, especially when you're using the CNC. But you are going to want to clean it regularly if you are using the CNC, just to stop it all building up. It is a large device, printer, CNC, whichever we want to call it at this point, you are going to need to have space. Obviously, it is available in different sizes. This is the 350, and whilst it's nice and good having that large work area, it does take up a lot of space. I do have the chassis cover for it, so the laser engraver cover, which ensures that you can't damage yourself. I haven't used that yet. I'll be using that in the future, and I will make a video about that on the channel. Up till now, I've been doing the laser engraving with the goggles, but you are going to want to make sure that there is plenty of space around you. But the only other thing I could really say is, when you look at it, it isn't the tidiest externally. You do have wires hanging around, but it's an industrial machine. It feels industrial and it's doing industrial things. So having stuff like that really isn't that much of a big deal. Next, moving over to the software. Now, this is where things get a bit more mixed. Overall, it has all of the main functionality you need. It certainly isn't as fully featured as, say, the slicers you see on some of the other printers, Cura, things like that. And the software doesn't have all of the functionality for the laser as a light bin or Fusion 360. But what it does do is cover the basics. For me, though, there are some real horrible quirks in this software that does limit the use of this unit. For instance, it's not affecting the 3D printing, but it does affect the laser engraving and the CNC cutting. There are settings that you can choose to either cut on the line or cut around the line. What I mean by that is, if you have, say, a part that you want to cut out, you would not necessarily want to cut on the line because you'd be making the part smaller. You'd want to be cutting around the outside. What I found, though, in the Lubin software is, when you cut on the line, everything is fine, but when you change the setting to around, you then start to lose detail. It starts literally removing parts of the object that you want cut out, and it means that you can't use it to make parts such as frame parts on a quad, because it isn't going to cut around all of the outside. It may miss parts in the middle, and it is a huge limitation that I feel needs to be fixed. Now, there are other software options that you can use for this. You could buy Lightburn for the laser engraver, or you could buy something like Fusion 360, but these are expensive pieces of software, and whilst their software they include Lubin does cover the functionality, it's crazy to me that it does have these quirks that prevent you at times getting the full functionality from the Snapmaker. So in the end, what do I actually think about the Snapmaker 2.0? I will say, I actually really like this. I do think it is a super interesting device. I'm not going to pretend it's cheap, but what it does do is give you an all-in-one device that doesn't take up all the space of those other units. So if you're someone who's not looking to use all three parts at the same time, or you just don't want three separate devices and you want something that you can swap, it is absolutely worth a look. It is not going to be a CNC machine you can use to cut 24 hours a day, or a laser engraver that's going to do the most complex things in the world. But what it does do is make a nice DIY home crafting unit, and what it will offer you is capabilities that you may not have had before, and I have found myself using this far more than I anticipated, and I'm going to be using it a lot more on the channel in the future. It certainly isn't perfect, but it certainly also does a lot very well, and I think if you're someone who is interested in this kind of functionality in all-in-one unit, it is absolutely worth a look. I really just hope that Snapmaker continue to work on their software. At the moment, to me, that feels like the part that is letting this down. So that's it. I am really interested in hearing your thoughts. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the comment section and I will try and answer them. Again, I want to say a thank you to Snapmaker for sending this one over. Very, very interesting indeed. I'm going to be doing some more stuff in the near future. We're going to be getting some carbon on this, not in here. We'll be taking it outside, don't worry. But we're going to be doing a lot more on this in the future. I want to actually do a full frame cut on this. Obviously, it is not designed to be cutting the most heaviest of materials, but there's no reason this won't be able to, in my opinion, cut us out an FPV frame. And if you're interested in seeing that, please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Finally, I just want to say, if you're interested in supporting the channel to allow us to keep making content in the future, please do consider checking out the links to my Patreon, as well as buying me a coffee. It's only through the support of my patrons I'm able to keep making content on this channel. And if you'd like to support us, please do consider checking it out. Anyway, that's it from me. Stay safe. I'll speak to you soon.